Tuning you in now to the LBX Show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
Well, welcome everybody to the LBX Show for September 28th, 2025. I'm your host, Brandon Wiley, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Today, we're going to actually start off with a relatively robust news you should know, and then we're going to roll into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams, and he's just going to, we're going to review the openings and closing trends from the last week, and then we're going to hear from Adam Pratt from Arcade Corner as he covers quite a bit of news on the amusement front from the IAAPA Expo Europe, so that's an important one. And then finally, we're going to close out with promo pro tips with Chuck Tamonti, and he's going to share tips on how to take advantage of and prepare for the Q4 holiday season. And obviously, that's coming right up around the corner for us. And so, all that being said, let's start off with some news you should know. All right. Well, the biggest news of the week, basically, in the LBE space, the LBX space, is LEGO's announcement of their acquisition of all 29 LEGOLAND Discovery Centers from Merlin Entertainment for $270 million. And I could go into a lot on that, but we actually cover that a little bit on Open and Shut this week. So in just a few minutes, you'll hear us talk a little bit about this acquisition, Kevin and I. But then we're also we went pretty deep on Sound Off with from Kevin Williams. We're going to cover that on September 30th, so just a few days on Tuesday. So if you want a little bit more information, obviously you can look it up online. But if you want to get our take on this acquisition, which is a pretty big deal in this industry, then you can tune in to Open and Shut in just a few days. And so that's the big news there on that front. All right, so next we've got IAAPA Expo Europe. So IAAPA Expo Europe wrapped up this week, and this year's show drew in a little bit less than they were expecting. So they had 18,000 people registered. They kind of expected to be around 17,000, but you know what, 15,877 to be exact. Verified attendees came in, and they represented about 11,500 qualified buyers across 9,300 buying companies. I know it's a lot of numbers, but these things all matter, especially to the vendors who come. And these buying companies were from across 121 countries. And, look, there were 700 exhibitors there. There's about 250,000 square feet of exhibition space. So a much smaller show than obviously the IAAPA Expo that's coming up in Orlando, but still a healthy show. I've been to the Expo Europe many times, have not been to this one in Barcelona, but I am looking forward to next year. So next year's going to take place in London, and from September 21st to the 25th in London, UK. It'll probably be the Excel or something like that out there. Anyway, it should be really good. And then while they were there, the IAAPA board basically elected 9 new board members. This is pretty typical. They do the election at Expo Europe, and that way, by the time we get to Orlando, the transition can happen between the old board members and the new board members. And so they elected 9 board members. And, this one is an exciting one because, especially for the LBE space, the FEC space, because for the first time in a long time, frankly, they have two people rolling onto the board who really truly represent the makeup of the family entertainment center and location-based entertainment community. So I've got this box here, maybe make it a little bit bigger here so you can see, and I'll just make myself smaller. The IAAPA Global Board of Directors. These are the new guys rolling on. Well, Chris Hirschen has been on, but he's rolling into the second vice chair pathway, which means that basically in 2 years he will be the chair of the board. That's the way that typically works. You're second vice chair, then you go to first vice chair, and then you go to chair. So unless something happens along the way, Chris Hirschen from Hirschen Entertainment will be filling that spot. But we've got 2 new people rolling onto the board here. Luis Felipe Arteaga. So he's a former colleague of mine on the FEC committee for IAAPA. So great to see him join. In fact, I have an IAAPA FEC committee profile headshot in that same background. That was at an urban air in, I can't remember exactly where, it might have been in Austin. Anyway, but it was an urban air. It was actually fun. We did it was a great photo shoot. But anyway, good to see him on. So he is the CEO of Happy Land Peru. And basically, he oversees 20 family entertainment centers. Happy Land is a chain of FECs beyond Peru as well. I mean, they're in Argentina and some other Latin American countries. But he oversees the Peru operations, 20 FECs. And, he's also been, as I mentioned, on the FEC committee. He's been a volunteer. He's been a speaker. He also served on the Education Member Services Task Force, as well as he's on the Latin American Caribbean Regional Advisory Board. So lots of experience there, but also a phenomenal voice for the FEC community, and really glad to see him on board there. And then my good friend, Jeremy Hoyam, is also the owner and operator of 2 family entertainment centers. But he has way more than experience in that. He's worked, as I think I don't remember his exact role, but with Urban Air at the operations level. And then, now he's operating actually 2 Urban Air FECs. And he is also led the team at Jake's Unlimited for many, 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 many years over there. And he, while there, took the Top FEC of the World Award. He's also taken a brass ring for food and beverage as well. And he's been on the FEC committee before with me, and now he has actually just rolled on to the FEC committee this year and has been a big part there. And he's spoken at every expo since 2017 and is also at several FEC summits. So anyway, as you can just tell, these guys have a lot of experience in the location-based entertainment and FEC space. And so really glad to have that voice. It's a voice we haven't really had at the IAAPA Global Board Director level for a long time. So congratulations to both of those guys, and do us proud. All right. That is everything on IAAPA. Next, there's something I wanted to talk about, and I think this is just a word of caution for anybody who's operating, with a landlord, and maybe you don't own your space, which is obviously most of the operators out there. But Tilt Studio in Wichita Falls, Texas, has announced that it's going to close its mall location officially on September 28th. Now, okay, that happens, right? So Tilt Studio, been around for a long time. Their model is a little bit outdated, if you ask me. I mean, their parent company is called Nickels and Dimes. So that tells you that there's a little bit of some old perspectives within the organization. But at the end of the day, they have multiple locations around the US, and they have, evolved. They have a couple of other experimental locations doing some things. Anyway, at a public hearing, interestingly, in August, though, their SVP of operations for Tilt Studio basically expressed long-term plans for this location. They said that they were planning to be around. And in fact, they just opened this location in 2024. And, they signed a 40-year lease. So they signed a 40-year lease in 2024, and now they're having to end this lease early. And so the story thickens a little bit here. And this is why I want to talk about this here, and why I believe this is news you should know, is that, they basically, according to the CEO of Wichita Falls Chamber of Commerce, Ron Kitchens, he said that the decision was part of an overall redevelopment timeline for the mall. So they're putting the mall through a redevelopment. And they said that over the next 15 months or so, you're going to see a lot of these national regional companies transition out. And then they said actually a lot of local companies as well will reestablish themselves in more appropriate space in the community. So basically they're saying, as a mall, you know what, you guys don't belong here, get the fuck out. And we're going to cancel all your leases, and you all have to move out in the next 15 months as we redevelop. And so, okay, look, it's their land, it's their property. They want to redevelop for the community. But this is look, you sign a 40-year lease, doesn't mean you're going to be stuck. You're going to be in that lease, because they still have the right to cancel your lease and kick you out. And I'm sure there's some repercussions and everything else that have to be paid. But anyway, they do move them out, and they noticed that Kitchens also mentioned that the structure that Tilt occupies no longer meets modern standards and will need to be torn down. So basically, maybe some safety stuff there. They said, we've known all along throughout this process that the building they were in needed to come down, has some structural issues, and it just made sense for the whole redevelopment of that part of it. Eventually, everything will come down. Okay, so you signed a 40-year lease with these guys in 2024, even though you knew you were going to have to tear down the building and then it wasn't going to last for 40 years. Smells a little bit funny. Well, ultimately, despite the closures, the city officials say plans are underway to ensure the community continues to have access to family entertainment options. And they said, yeah, we're currently working with 2 different developers who are that kind of, as he says, quote unquote, Dave and Buster's meets Chicken and Pickle meets indoor laser tag, bowling, and we're really looking at that strategically in the community and where does that belong. So I think what he's saying is that the model that Tilt Studio has for the community is not the model that they see, is a model that is the future of everything else. And if you look, Tilt Studio has your pretty standard stuff: blacklight mini golf, Route 66 mini bowling lanes, spin and flip zone bumper cars, and blacklight laser tag. Like, those are their attractions, along with what Tilt Studio is known for, is their arcades. And so, I think what this means is just ultimately that, like they're saying, Tilt Studio, you don't really belong here anymore. Your model isn't working. And so why do I say this? Why is this news? You should know. It sucks for Tilt Studio that they're going through this for this particular location. I'm sure they spent quite a bit of money to get everything up and running in this particular area, and it only ran for a year and a half. But they have a tired model. And if you have a mix here that, your local community, and you see other things coming in that are this Dave and Buster's meets Chicken and Pickle meets indoor laser tag and bowling, quote unquote, then you may need to rethink your attraction mix if you want to stay relevant for your community. So just leaving it out there as a PSA, your landlord can do this kind of stuff, depending on what you have in your lease. So it might be worth reviewing your lease. Can they kick you out? Can they cut your lease early? Can they do these things? And if they can, should you think about reinvesting and potentially shifting and updating your attraction mix that you're bringing to your community? So anyway, that is the news you should know on Tilt Studio front. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is Chuck E. Cheese. These guys have done a phenomenal job with their brand, and Chuck E. Cheese has partnered with Genius Cat Books. They actually did a license agreement with Genius Cat Books to release Just Stay Positive. And so this is a new children's book that champions resiliency and optimism during National Literacy Month. So if you aren't familiar, National Literacy Month is the month of September. I know we're kind of almost out to the end of September here, but frankly, this announcement just came out this last week, so couldn't get to it in time. But look, this is a book. It's perfect for readers, they say, of 3 to 7. So it's really targeted at that perfect Chuck E. Cheese age demographic. And it's a 24-page picture book that just, again, really shares that powerful message about how a positive outlook can make every day shine a little brighter. And it's based on their music video that came out a few years ago, Chuck E. Cheese's music video, not Genius Cat Books, because they make books, So Chuck E. Cheese's music video, Stay Positive, and it's tons of things, tons of illustrations. And, each book actually comes with 750 free e-tickets that you can redeem at any Chuck E. Cheese location in the US. So that's also really cool. So you can buy this book on Amazon, you can buy it at Barnes & Noble and other places, but you also get 750 e-tickets. So great way, brilliant, if you're doing that partnership with Chuck E. Cheese to drive people into Chuck E. Cheese as well. But here I'll do just a little quick share of the video so you can see what this what type of music video and the content that Chuck E. Cheese is doing if you weren't aware of it. They have cartoon and animated content as well, but this is their puppet related content. So here we go. Oh. All right.
When life brings you troubles, when things don't go your way, just stay positive and everything will be okay. 'Cause there's a silver lining to every cloud that's gray. So just stay positive and everything will be okay. Yes, just stay positive, 'cause everything will be okay. I wish that I was outside, just a-playing in the sun. But it's raining cats and dogs and I'm not having any fun.
All right. Well, that is Just Stay Positive. And, look, that is, I'm not going to play the whole 3-minute video for you, but just wanted to give you an example of the type of content that Chuck E. Cheese is putting out there. And obviously this is on YouTube. So, on their YouTube channel, kids are watching this kind of stuff. Parents are putting this stuff in front of their kids because it's a good message. And obviously they're seeing Chuck E. Cheese with the big C, where they want to go for their birthday, Chuck E. Cheese. They see this type of videos on their network. We've talked about the media, some of the media deals that Chuck E. Cheese has done recently. So these guys are just doing the right thing around their brand, using their different characters, right? They've got the dogs and the different things that they've, the different characters in their set. And so anyway, this is another good, move for Chuck E. Cheese to release this book, to partner with Jesus Can't Books. But more than anything else, it is a reminder that this is the kind of stuff that if you create your own IP that you can do out there to get your brand and keep your brand in front of your customers. So anyway, great job there with Chuck E. Cheese. And here we go. All right. Last thing on News You Should Know. And this is pretty cool. But again, just more stuff to be aware of that's coming down the line. Spotify has announced a new pop-up experience in New York City to celebrate the upcoming release of Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl album coming out on October 3rd. I have that in my calendar. I don't know if you do. I'm a big fan. Looking forward to listening to that album from start to finish on the 3rd. But just like a week. So pretty excited about that. There's another album coming out by the midnight. Also excited about that one. So big day for me on October 3rd for music. All right. But anyway, Spotify has basically, they've described this as a dazzling 3-day immersive activation. Obviously not there for 3 days. It's an activation for 3 days. You go there for a period of time to go through the experience. But it's The Life of a Showgirl, a Spotify experience, and it'll run only from September 30th. So basically the day on Wednesday through October 2nd. So it is, very, very short time window that this thing is running. So October 30th through October 2nd, September 30th through October 2nd. I think I got those dates right. Anyway, at the experience, Swifties will discover hidden Easter eggs, enjoy exclusive photo opportunities, all inspired by the new album. And they say it's just a chance for listeners to experience the next era before it officially arrives, surrounded by the music and visuals that have shaped their anticipation, Spotify said in their press release. And they also added, which is important, that Taylor Swift will not be in attendance. So don't get your hopes up. You're not going to see her at the Spotify experience. But the Spotify campaign will promote Swift's new album. And it started this whole thing in August when these billboards first started to come up in Times Square. It had like this mysterious Spotify code. Spotify code actually linked to a curated playlist on Swift's official Spotify profile, which I have downloaded already. And it's already been in my playlist for a while. But they released a series of clips providing a first look into the world of the new album. And they're in their words, with The Life of a Showgirl, Spotify is helping turn anticipation into a global fan experience online, on the street, and soon in person. So why is this important for us? Because it's music. What is important is we are now seeing music, Spotify doing the same things. We saw this a little bit with the Elvis experience that totally flopped. Well, Spotify is taking this approach that we've seen Netflix do with their Fever partnership and all their activations when they've got the Stranger Things coming out and others coming out. We've seen this with movies and films. When we saw the Barbie activations happening, we talked about those on the LBX Daily Show like 2 years ago when Barbigeddon or Barbenheimer was going on. And so it is important now to recognize that these types of pop-up experiences are coming down the line from music studios, and not even music studios, but Spotify, right? So this is an important thing to just be aware of, that if you are in some of these bigger markets where you can expect that sometimes this stuff is going to happen, what can you do to potentially play off of that as well? Right, we've talked about when there's new movie releases and you have a particular amusement piece in your on your game floor, what can you do to showcase that, or to do some sort of like marketing around that movie release when it's coming out? If there's a Star Wars movie coming out, or if there's Halo or something that's happening, or a video game release, how can you partner and tie into those things happening? It's important to be aware of this type of stuff, because this, her stuff moves markets. How can you leverage that to move guests into your facility? So anyway, this is coming up. And if you're in New York, well, go check out their activation. If you plan to get there in the next couple of days, go check out the activation from September 30th to October 2nd. All right. That was a robust News You Should Know. Coming up next after the break, we've got Open and Shut with Kevin and Williams. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Hey, a big hello to everyone for the latest Open and Shut here from glorious rainy England. How are you doing, Brandon?
Good. I wish it was glorious and raining here in Phoenix, but it's all right. I think we might actually get some rain tomorrow morning.
Oh.
And so, that'll be like the 10th day it's rained here for this year. So it'll be great.
Well, jumping straight into the lineup, and you will have noticed that what I was speculating last sound off has come to pass, that we do seem to have a selection of new openings, kind of the dip and then the surge, and I expect that we're going to be going through this cyclical process for the next couple of months regarding how many facilities are opening and how many are actually planned. Anyway, you know the rules. Stop and pause because I'm going to be zipping through these. And first off is Smash Park, Ohio, which I seem to be typing in a lot into my engine. There's a lot going on in Ohio. I don't know if that's becoming the replacement to our friends in Texas. But anyway, we have Smash Park's an interesting one from my perspective because it's a bit of everything. It's outside you've got the pickleball, and inside you've got the axe throwing, and then you've got the duck pin, and then you've got the amusement. They're part of a 5-facility chain, and it's kind of pointing towards a intermediary competitive socialized entertainment mix.
Well, my record on pickleball as a form of entertainment, but at least they have other social entertainment components to this mix. With the duck pin and the axe throwing, and some arcades. It feels a little bit more like an actual mule, as you would say, but with pickleball as an active component. I just still struggle with the revenue to square foot element of the pickleball, especially when you have big spaces for yard games like we see on this picture here with the cornhole and just the big open spaces. That's a lot of square footage, very little revenue happening in those areas anyway. So will be interesting to see how they do over the long term.
Looking at Westfield as a location, they don't have that many location-based entertainment chains in that area. You're quite right about the real estate. I am looking at actually changing the definition of between what a mule and what's maybe an ass. No, maybe.
Hey,
yeah,
you heard it here
a
first.
mule or a jackass will have to come up with, but stay watching that. Moving on, and we have again the immersive entertainment experiences that are again part of our sector, which are gaining momentum. These comprise many immersive entertainment exhibits and experiences, a little bit on the museum, a little bit on the experience, but also including what I like to call the shared reality kind of virtual reality systems. This particular one in Illinois is of interest because I get the feeling that this is the beginning of a kind of chain of immersive experience destinations that we're going to be seeing from this particular operation.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see how it expands and how it handles repeat visitation. I think one of the advantages at some level is that it can be changed. The experience can be evolved, but I think for these types of experiences, repeat visitation really will continue to be a struggle.
Whenever I see the term blend, I always get a little bit panicky because that's kind of, we don't know what's going to work, so we're going to throw as much as possible at the wall and see what sticks, our spaghetti moment. But again, this is more of an experiential entertainment destination than it is an entertainment facility. Our friends at Atlas 9 I've been keeping a little bit of an eye on this. This is kind of Meow Wolf light, I think would be a terminology that I would use to try and describe that to someone who can't look at the pictures. It is an experience venue. It is walking through. It is designed. It is heavy on the themality. It does include amusement in it from a classic arcade perspective, but it is really a themed fictional environment that's playing heavy on the 90s vibes, making people like myself feel very old. But again, what is its repeat visitation going to be like is the big question. Even the font of the website, thank you, Brandon, even the font of the website is giving us flashbacks to the early days of the Macintosh.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, it's super intriguing to me. This is a place that I would have no reason to go to Kansas City, frankly, other than
no. There's some things to do in Kansas City.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, okay. So I'm not throwing shade at Kansas City.
Not rushing out.
What I was intending to do. I just mean I would have like no functional business reason to go to Kansas City, but I would literally fly to Kansas City just to go experience this. This does feel like you said, Meow Wolf Light. There's some really intriguing components to this, even all the way down to when you first walk in. I don't know. Here we go back to the Google. You've got this really cool logo out front. You come into a movie theater, and it feels very much like this kind of 1990s, maybe late 80s, early 90s feel. And then, yes. When you get to the website is just masterful, frankly, and that's very rare for me to say. I usually dog.
I'm concerned. I am concerned how masterful that website is. It was difficult to navigate because it was recreating the delay and the lag that you used to get from your Macintosh enjoyment factor, and I think it may be a little too clever. Personal opinion. I had opinions about Amiga Mart when they first launched, which thankfully or unthankfully was borne out. And again with Atlas 9, I'm looking forward to seeing how much they are wanting to be an entertainment experience rather than a clever interpretation.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And it's hard to say without seeing the actual experience and going through it. Again, depending on what they're doing, I mean, 46,000 square feet is not small at all. And depending on what the experiences are there, if it's just kind of a Meow Wolf walk through, see the art exhibits kind of thing, then I think it will struggle. But if there's some other repeat visitation elements to it, or some deeper gameplay or interactivity, then I think it has some real potential for repeat visitation and even to be a smaller regional destination.
This is clearly not a one and done. This is aiming to be rolled out across a number of locations. But again, they have to get the flagship right, and we look forward to at least taking some time off to have a look at it. The what I like to call resortainment, but we'll have to come up with a better term for that. The theme park and the resort facility that is now adding an amusement component to it. It's not an original idea, but some parks and some of the park chains have not embraced location-based entertainment as much as others. Our friends at Center Parcs have, and their Center Parcs UK facility has just opened up what they call the Entertainment Hive. This, for me, is purely a competitive socializing drop-in into their park environment. So they have a captive audience from the campers, not the campers, but the chalet owners within their locality. And they've now dropped in some interactive darts. They've dropped in some shuffleboard and some mini golf. Add to this a little bit amusement, and suddenly you have an entertainment hive, because they didn't want to use entertainment hub. It is what it is. If you look at the video after watching our presentation, you'll understand that it is kind of cookie cutter, but at least they're creating an entertainment for their audience.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're learning from some of the things we've said here, or just from things in the market, but they're at least beginning to mix. They've taken a mix of social entertainment components and didn't just select one. And I think that at least gives it some potential here.
We're going to have to revisit interactive shuffleboard at some point in time and have a deeper discussion. Maybe that is a meme that I'll have to consider talking about.
Yes.
Moving on, and we go straight to the latest F1 arcade. I touched upon that we were due another US opening in a previous sound off, I think. And anyway, Denver is open, 15,000 square. 69 machines, simulators, the F&B components, scratch kitchen, all of that. It is formulaic. This is the 8th location now, which is important to bear in mind that I talked about the Las Vegas facility that is just about to open. So we're kind of disjoined, but we're getting close to that. And then we have the confirmation of the 30 facility rollout by 2027, which I am going to hold them to.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say here. I think their rollout is just too aggressive and too fast. We've talked about that ad nauseum.
Moving on and past the claw machines. Here's a weird one. Our friends at Immersive. I always want to say Versimmerse, but anyway, Immersive. They have come up with a brand new piece of content. Trick or treat, very seasonal, very positional, and they're going to be opening this particular content across all of their 15 installations. So rather than putting in 15 slides here, I thought I'd just grab the Chicago facility as an example. This is really where we are in the market, where you have a facility that depends on immersive entertainment, where you have to keep the content fresh. And then when you roll the content out, you have to roll it across all of your facilities to avoid disappointment where someone goes to your site and they don't know that your Chicago facility is not the same as your Hong Kong facility or whatever. This is a similar problem that our friends at Sandbox VR have. Similar problem that our friends at Zero Latency have. But again, this is what immersive entertainment is. I look forward to trying their trick or treat experience. I feel that augmented reality and mixed reality is a much better environment to try the horror jump scare environment in than just a full virtual reality environment where it's very easy to scare the crap out of people.
Yeah, this one is interesting, and there's a Versimmersive here locally that I think I may go and try out this experience.
Please.
It's in a main event down here, and definitely want to try it out. It looks interesting, and I think this is one of the benefits of to a main event or to a location that has a Versimmersive installed, if they continue to do these types of seasonal things. And so one of the questions I would have for Versimmersive is that they plan to keep Trick or Treat in the library year round, and that I can choose that from my selection in February, and or is this something that's truly going to be seasonal to drive that seasonal foot traffic into a venue that may or may not normally get seasonal traffic because they're not doing anything else specific to that particular season. So I think if this is a way to allow FECs or LBEs to provide some sort of haunt experience without having to go into haunt and to partner with a group like Verse, then I think that's really interesting.
I have a particular presentation I do about seasonality because a lot of operators don't have a lot of experience regarding seasonality. They understand maybe Easter and they understand Christmas, but they don't really understand the mix between and how this can be rolled into a designated. You don't have to dedicate your trick or treat environment to this time of the year. You can create a scare experience, which is then ramped up and ramped down depending on that. But again, we will look forward to seeing how Versus and the team work out how to come up with the best package for their audience. In the UK, we have Fun City, interesting name. So this is kind of a passion project by a group of entrepreneurs. They throw £4 million at a project. They take over a building that used to be a nightclub. They turn it into an entertainment facility. They throw in the competitive socializing components, as I would say, as well as some virtual reality. And, hey, we've built it. Let's see how it comes. Let's stick a flag in the ground regarding this particular facility. This is at the tail end of August. This is a facility, brand new concept, and we will use this as a kind of a thermometer of how well this kind of approach, clean piece of paper, will survive in the market.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is a good idea to put a stick in, a pin in the ground, stick in the ground, whatever we want to say, pin in the wall. But
Yeah, pin in the wall. Much better.
given their traction mix, it's a really. I'm looking here at their site. It's a really interesting mix. Yeah, this will be tough to.
This will be a good litmus paper to get my science teacher happy to evaluate where we are at the market. So be prepared that we're going to revisit this one again. Our friends at Putt-Shack, they're up to 23 facilities internationally. This is the second Minnesota Putt-Shack here, which blows my mind a little bit. 20,000 square, that's quite a large amount. And again, it's a single social entertainment venue. So you've got either you want to play the mini golf, or you want to drink, or you want something to eat, or you're going to get out the door. So from my point of view, they are breaking what I think is the model of how this stuff will work. But from their point of view, they can point to 23 facilities open, and we have to back down from that. One of the other aspects here, we're not captured in the picture, is that our friends at Putt-Shack have developed a couple of interactive digital courses. So they've upgraded some of their courses from being just physical to including some digital component. I'm wondering if that's them kind of bowing to the pressures of the market.
Yeah, potentially. It'd be interesting to see if the Putt-Shack that's local here in the Scottsdale has swapped out or is rotating out some of these digital holes, or if they've stuck with the ones that are much more physical. I think one of the interesting things about Putt-Shack versus maybe some of the other Bay type mini golf systems that we're seeing coming out into the market from 501 and from Social Rivals. I think one of the differentiators for these types of things is that they are physical and they do have really whimsical things and interesting gameplay. So to go digital, it would have to really be enhanced gameplay, I think, to make it justified. I think the head scratcher for me here is that Minneapolis has a population of 428,000. They're putting in certainly enough population to support 2 Putt-Shacks, depending on their distance from each other. But why Minneapolis versus, let's say, a Phoenix market, for example? We have 1 in Scottsdale. The Phoenix market has 5 million in population in the metro area. So it's a 10x the size of the area, and yet they're putting 2 into a smaller space like Minneapolis.
I think it's warm body franchising, as I would like to call it, which is if you found a warm body that wants to franchise your concept and that they're doing business, you feed them as much as possible. One of the things I'm noticing about Putt-Shack, which we cover in a coming entertainment social arena feature, is that their private events and their private hire business is actually superseding their normal registration business. And that is something that we need to touch upon at a later date. Moving to the shuts and acquisitions, as it were, shuts and sales. We have quite a big announcement that Lego has decided to jump in and take control of their LEGOLAND Discovery Center facility from Merlin Entertainment. We will go into much more granular detail regarding this move in our sound off soon. But one of the things I'd like many people to take away from this is this means that if you have one of the many 29 international LEGOLAND Discovery Centers dotted around, but if you're, so we say in North America, and you have one of the 15 LEGOLAND Discovery Centers near you, they're going to be going through a change, because our friends at Lego will not just be sitting back. This deal is incredibly good from Lego's point of view. You have just acquired 29 medium scale facilities, which are average between 20 and 30,000 square, and you've just only paid $270 million for the pleasure of that. That's, you can do the mental maths in your head.
It's incredible.
It's an incredible deal, and I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop, because this is obviously Lego has, as one of the leading transmedia companies out there, they've made a decision of playing hard in location-based entertainment. And this move could shock a lot of companies into making a re-evaluation of who they allow to control their brand. But again, I wanted to bring it up here because it is a sale and a changeover. And if you have one of these facilities near you, you better be bracing for impact.
Yeah, I will just say I will reserve. I'll reserve all my. I'll reserve my comments for our sound off. In a couple of days. But it is. This is a big deal. I saw this and just about fell out of my chair. So this is a big move for Lego, and a big hit to Merlin, I think. And again, I'll explain maybe some of my thoughts on the sound off as to why I think it is a big reputational hit for Merlin.
All I'll say is you ain't seen nothing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, and Dixieland Landing, Louisiana has closed. Again, we seem to learn these things from social media. So their Facebook suddenly ran the information that they would be closing, and the local media interviewed the owners of the facility and said that it was due to lack of attendance. I did a very cursory observation of this. I try not to get too much in the weeds on water parks because that's not my specialty. Even though I have the information in front of me, I like to focus on the core disciplines. But again, looking at what they did, they plowed money into this facility in the last couple of years. They've upgraded it and all of that. They haven't generated the attendance. One of the suggestions I think I would have made to them if I was advising them was improve their marketing, but that's too late now. Their website will make Brandon bang his head against the laptop, but fundamentally we've lost another. Will this be acquired? Will this be turned into real estate and housing property? We don't know, but that is the way things are going. Anyway, that is the main thrust for this particular period. Be prepared for some interesting changes in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, anything else to add, Brandon?
No, just always, it's sad to see what somebody, a small community amusement park like this, that somebody poured a lot of time into. I know families probably had memories growing up going to this park, but at the end of the day, it probably outgrew and outstayed its welcome, or didn't evolve enough to meet the changing needs of that population. So it's always sad to see that happen, but you know what? Onwards and upwards.
I think they pivoted in the wrong direction, but again, we're not here to do a post-mortem. We're here to see what happens next from this point of view.
Yep. All right. Well, see you on the next Open and Shut.
Have a good one.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, that was a great Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. And coming up next, we've got Arcade Corner with Adam Pratt, and we're going to dig into IAAPA Expo Europe. So let's do it.
Hey everyone, it's Adam with Arcade Heroes for the Arcade Corner here. Today, going to be rushing through a bunch of stuff from IAAPA Expo Europe. I was not there. Kevin was, but haven't seen any photos from him on that yet. He did mention that the attendance was down by about 2,000 people from what I guess, I don't know if he didn't really say if that was expectations or compared to last year. Mentioned some other things as far as some people that attended the Europe, or manufacturers who attended Europe Expo are not planning on going to Orlando. And so as we've talked about before, and as I'm sure many of you know, the business environment out there has been difficult for the past couple of years between inflation and then the various trade conflicts going on this year. But nonetheless, there were still plenty of people there in Barcelona to show off new products. Now, this PDF that I'm using here, I tried to organize it as best I could. What I had to do was essentially just scoured LinkedIn for photos, but as any of you who uses LinkedIn knows, it's pretty much trash. It's useful, but at the same time, it's very aggravating as to what it decides to show you and whatnot. And I tried using, at the very least, some things were tagged with a hashtag, and that helped a little bit. But oftentimes it's just hoping that somebody out there in your network liked something. But so the first one is Ace Amusement, and as you can kind of maybe see there at the top, they did have a small booth. It was very similar to their GTI booth, where they had games like Biker's Madness and the new Crossbow Fishing and Dragon Knight and Skull of Shadow available to show off. Pretty sure they will be in Orlando as they were last year, and not just them being there themselves, but various other licensors of their content like Coastal Amusements, Amusement Source International will likely be there. And so looking forward to seeing what they do, as they've been improving their quality quite a bit in recent times. Bandai Namco, as it was mentioned, they didn't have anything new that we've never seen before. I'm guessing from the sounds of it is that some people were expecting them to have stuff like the new Resident Evil arcade game that had been seen on test earlier in the year. However, there's just, as I was told from Bandai Namco Europe, was that game is still way out, and that this was just a very early test, and that it sounds like maybe IAAPA 2026 is when we would see it, but it's probably not even going to be at IAAPA Orlando. And so that's where, if people were expecting that, that's maybe why they were disappointed. Now, of course, if you're new to the arcade industry and you're wondering why is it that Bandai Namco has a bunch of these Raw Thrills products at their booth, like they had Top Gun Maverick and the Godzilla Kaiju Wars VR and Wizard of Oz, it's because Bandai Namco Amusements Europe also operates as a distributor. In fact, they operate more as a distributor in Europe than they do as manufacturer. However, there are things like ideas, and there's been products that have come out of the European branch there as well. But as you can sort of see on the slide, because again, I know it's kind of small, here is Goldstorm Pirates, which came out from Bandai Namco earlier this year, was at their booth. DOF Robotics, I didn't hear about anything brand new that they had. They did have one of the few VR things at the show. This is their Hurricane 360, which can work with VR, or if the location wants it, you can use a giant dome screen. Maybe you've seen those before. But they've had this Hurricane 360 for, I think, 10 years now, so nothing necessarily new. But maybe they did have something and just didn't see it. Electrocoin, they mainly had crane machines and a couple of redemption games. As you can sort of see there on the side, a soccer game where you kick a real ball. Maybe we've seen a few of those sorts of things before, but this one looks a little bit bigger than what I've seen with other products. As far as I'm aware, Electrocoin is a distributor, or the official distributor for Sturm pinball machines. However, from the photos that they posted on their LinkedIn, there does not appear to have been any pinballs at their booth. Now, Sturm Pinball did have a booth at the show. However, I haven't come across any photos of it, but I would assume that it had the latest Star Wars pinball machine that they just released, and several of their other latest games that are in production, probably like Dungeons and Dragons and King Kong and things of that nature. But Electrocoin had a lot of crane machines, new crane machines, redemption games, and such. Another distributor is Global Fun Partners, where they had a mixture of stuff, such as things from Baytech, like Icy Slush Rush and Goats and Ropes. They had LAI's Asphalt 9 Legends Arcade. They had Raw Thrills' Angry Birds Boom. So just a variety of stuff. I saw an ice crane machine. I think Tons of Tickets is what it's called. And so just a variety there, but I didn't see anything that we've never seen before. Interactive X-Wall, this is a company I just heard about recently when I was doing research for a preview into IAAPA. and they had this. It's an interactive projection screen. Essentially, you could call this a mixed reality system, as you can see there with the soccer ball, soccer being pretty big in Europe. And so it makes sense that they would have something along those lines. And it looks like almost like those ball toss mini games, like PlayMind had a ball toss game with the big screens before, and so instead of using a ball toss, it's a ball kick with a soccer ball. It looks like Space Invaders style gameplay there, probably just kick the invaders. I also believe from what I saw of their websites, there's a bunch of different mini games that they've developed that work with that, and so for FECs, theme parks and such. Sega LAI, they have some videos online, but they didn't have many photos. Like I found this photo from, I think somebody works at Trio Tech that posted this. So like the big new reveal was LAI Games is Ubisoft All-Star VR. Now, this is another instance of where Sega does operate as a distributor across Europe and I believe the Middle East. And so that's why they're representing products that are not Sega branded, such as LAI Games and a couple of others. They've done ICE, and way back they did Trio Tech. I don't know if they're doing Trio Tech anymore. Regardless, this is the only photo I could find of the new Ubisoft All-Star VR. I'm sure there's more out there that I'll come across later. But this is essentially a sequel to Virtual Rabbids, which of course was highly influential on the market. But this one does have a controller now, and there are different sequences depending on what you're doing with the adventure. There's 3 rides at this point, all based upon Ubisoft or video games like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and Just Dance and a couple of others. But in some sequences you're driving, and in other sequences you're shooting. So it just depends on what it is. Sega also had Cyberpunk 2077 Turf Wars there. And some of their latest products. Although they didn't have, recently they announced that they're selling a new motorcycle racing game. I think it's Speed Rider 4. But apparently that was being carried by a distributor called LMAC. And so that would have been at the show. Couldn't find a photo of it yet. However, looks like Sega's carrying of it would just be for North America, not for Europe, at least at this moment, as far as we know. Another one of the VR things that I came across, but as I mentioned on my blog, the amount of VR product has greatly diminished from where it was a few years ago or several years ago, but it's still out there, though. This company called SimVenture, which has something that is kind of like, I think it was called Birdly VR, where you would lay down on this platform and it would make you feel like you're a bird. It looks like it's kind of like that, but it's using a network of cables to hold the person up. I have to imagine that would be a lot more expensive than the Birdly platform, but don't know. It's certainly something for an FEC that's looking for something different. Could probably go there. And then UDC, United Distributing Company, which is based in the UK, which also is a distributor that sells equipment across Europe, had quite a selection of crane machines, redemption games, coin pushers like Galaxy Hunter, I think that's called. That's in the picture on the top, but again, that might be a little hard to see. Interestingly enough, they had 2 dance games. Now, they've been the distributor for Step Maniacs for a long time, so that was there. But one thing that was kind of, I heard it described as a flash grenade thrown into the European market was the game that you see on the right there with the hexagonal type screen. This is called Dance Show, I believe by Archer, which is a Chinese company. And this was seen at GTI Asia China a couple of weeks or a week or 2 ago. But this is China's answer to Sega's very popular My DX, which just started shipping out in North America. And so that would be something that if we had more time, I could cover that, as that was, it's kind of a cultural icon, My. And this is it just barely started hitting the United States. But even then, even though this game had not existed in the United States in any official capacity, and there was no console version, no mobile version of the game, it has a massive fan base, a very dedicated and loyal fan base. The pictures that I saw of the first ones being installed in California, they bought three pairs of them, and all of them were already full of people playing every single screen and people waiting to play. Now, granted, that may not happen everywhere, probably won't happen everywhere. However, there's still a very dedicated fan base to that. But as of this moment, when I'm recording this in September 2025, there are still no announced plans for MyDX to come to Europe. From what I've talked about with Sega in the past, they said that they would see how it does in North America first. Obviously, it's more about how many units they sell as opposed to how popular the units that they sell are. As far as like, yeah, you might have a line of people in one place in California, but in somewhere else, they may not be having that all the time. But anyways, since that is still not intended or coming to Europe, Dance Show, which is very similar. I don't know what the song selection is like, but still UDC is carrying that and basically saying, hey, well, since Sega looks like they're not doing it, here you go. Here's this game. So it's popular in China. Whether or not it'll be popular in Europe, I have no idea. Probably depends a lot on the song selection as well as the price. But if it has a decent selection and it comes in under my, which is something like $32,000 USD, then yeah, it could pretty well. Unis also had a very big, elaborate booth. They had their new Claw Express Tower, which is a modular type crane system, crane prize system. As you can see, they were showing how you could set things up. Sorry about that, somebody visiting. But Unis, they had quite a few other products, including their Monster Jet Riders, which is a new video game. Lots of crane machines, more emoji games as well. And as we see, the Monster Kart DX right there, and their Toy Box Crane series. Valomotion also had their mixed reality products, such as their Valo Climb, which this looks like a redesign compared to what I've seen in the past, and a few other variations on their products. Vex Solutions had their answer to a lot of these mixed reality things, where they're also a company that used to be only focused on VR, now focusing on mixed reality instead. As you know, wearables required, a little bit more impressive, something you really can't get at home. And that pretty much concludes it. And so again, there was a lot more stuff at IAAPA Expo Europe, but that was what I was able to come across. So perhaps in the next arcade corner, we'll be able to discuss more of those things. But if you were there, comment below as to what you were impressed by the most, and we'll see you next time.
Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com. All right. Well, thanks, Adam, for breaking everything down from IAAPA Expo Europe, and looking forward to doing, as we always do after the big 3 trade shows, for Adam, Kevin, and I to get together and really do a big debrief of IAAPA Expo in Orlando. Obviously, that'll be in, that'll be like, later November, early December timeframe, but looking forward to that. It's always a lot of fun because we like to dig into everything that's happened at the Expo. So anyway, coming up next, we've got Promo Pro Tips with Chuck DeMonte.
Hello and welcome to Promo Pro Tips with Chuck DeMonte. That is me. And we are coming up on the Q4 holiday season. So I want to discuss with you guys, what can you do to take advantage of it? How do you plan for it? Okay, so let's just dive right into it. So we are at the end of September now, and you have Halloween coming up. You have Black Friday, Christmas, New Year's. I'm sure there's other things in between there. So all those are great opportunities to do events and drive more revenue, build community brand and awareness and strengthen your community ties, right? There's so many things you could do. And so while it could seem potentially overwhelming, right? And I think that oftentimes makes owners and operators do nothing, right? It's easier than you think. You just got to plan it out and get started, okay? So how do you do that? One, simple as that, start planning it out. Oftentimes I think people, they wait to last minute to plan it out, or they try one thing, it didn't work one year, and then so they never do anything again, right? So honestly, marketing can range from the most simple to the most complex, right? But there are a ton of simple things you can do that will move the needle, okay? And the other thing is too, that I always remind people of, like, even if you do something now, right? An event, charity, whatever, and we'll get into what those things could look like. Even if it is not the most unbelievable revenue driving event you've ever had in your life, right? It doesn't mean there wasn't impact, okay? You got to continue to do it. That's how you get better at these things. That's how you keep the word out. That's, again, how you build the inroads with the community. So I suggest you, this is a great time to start testing things out. So first and foremost, plan it out, okay? What's coming up? What are you doing? Start getting the assets, get the people you need, plan it out. It's not as hard as you think, right? Marketing at its core is pretty simple, right? Create something and let people know about it, right? How do you do that? Okay, so let's talk about Halloween, right? Maybe you could do a Halloween costume contest event, or just, any event, right? How do you get that out and how do you promote it? Create meta events, right? Do some boosted ads around it. Partner with influencers, partner with local people to come in there and a face painter or whatever, right? And just get the word out and use the local community. Send some flyers out, whatever that looks like. Do in-store signage. Make sure when people are coming in, you're making them aware of these things, right? So those are at its core, right? How you can get the word out for these things at a pretty minimal cost, okay? So let's talk about some core events or opportunities that I think would really help move the needle, right? So again, for Halloween, you have a potential party, costume contest, something like that, right? Now you can have Thanksgiving come up. What could you do for Thanksgiving? Partner with a charity, right? Do some sort of food drive, give back, right? If you do an event that's a food drive and you partner with a charity and you give a donation to the door, right? They get 10, 20% of the door or tickets or whatever, the revenue you drive that day to the charity. It is an amazing opportunity to do a great thing, to partner with a local charity, to build a relationship with them there. They can get people in the door. It's always a great press opportunity, right? You get easier press coverage when you pair this charity element to it, right? Again, do in-store signage, do meta events, do some boosting behind it, have the charity do some boosting, pair with them, organic, get an influencer there, right? There's so many things you could do to start promoting this and start teasing it, but I think you need time to lead it out and build it up and plan it out, okay? So that's Thanksgiving. Black Friday. Now, this is a huge one, right? What are you going to do to take advantage of Black Friday? Obviously, everybody makes offers, right? Maybe you do it the day before. Maybe you do it, something you've never done before, some deep discount, right? Something that's going to get people in, or how do you capture people's information, right? So really think about what you can do to offer Black Friday. Think about what people use the most or like the most for what you offer, right? Give them a discount on it. So it's, something that they'll want to use, but they'll have there's also an upsell when they come in, or there's going to be something they buy, so you still get additional revenue out of them, right? So and the other thing is, test out the system you're going to use for Black Friday, or test out the mechanism, what that offer is going to be. Make it very easy and simple and seamless to for people to take you up on that offer. Okay. Don't have something online, but your website doesn't work properly, or the mobile version is bad, right? So it's like, how do you make sure it's very easy for people to take advantage of it and use it? They don't have to come into the store. They can get it online or whatever that looks like, right? So make sure it's easy and you test it out through the system, right? And once you're sure it works, then start promoting it. Promote early. Hey, keep an eye out. We have a big Black Friday thing coming. Make sure the staff is telling people. Have in-store signage. Again, the simple things of just telling people, getting that out via digital, via physically, word of mouth, when people are actually in your location, right? So Black Friday, plan for it, figure it out, test it out, right? And start planning on it and promoting it earlier and often, right? Because again, you got to break through the noise. You got to keep people, remind people there's gonna be a lot of people promoting on Black Friday, obviously. Christmas, same thing there. So, one side note with Christmas and holidays, there's also corporate parties, right? Or holiday parties, okay? One of the ways you can get more of those, you kind of need to do outbound sales for that, right? But one of the ways you could do that is you could find a list of local businesses around you, right? That would maybe fit who who would be your core demographic. Okay. So if you could find a list of emails, contacts, whatever, right? Maybe you want to start sending emails out to these people with a discount or promo, okay, for your holiday events, right? Now you could literally just go online and find a list broker that would give you a list of local businesses to you, okay? Get their email, phone number, whatever, right? And start sending messages out for potential holiday parties, okay? So that's one way to take advantage of Christmas. Another way, maybe you could partner with local shops, have a shopping event in your park, store, whatever it is, right? Have 3 to 10 to 15, 20 vendors come in there that are going to have like a shopping day, right? And they're going to set up a little booth and they're going to sell almost like a little Etsy type of thing or street fair, right? So maybe you set that up in your parking lot if you're in a warmer weather, climate, or, in your location, right? That's a cool way to take advantage of it. Maybe you have Santa photos, right? So again, get creative on what that event could look like. This is a great opportunity. People are already in the mind of spending money, going shopping, going to events, taking, pictures with Santa, right? How do you take advantage of those opportunities? And then again, once you figure out what that is, there's some basic ways to get the information out. And broken record here, but in-store signage, putting it on Meta, doing some boosted ads for it, right? Sending out a mailer, right? All these things are not that complicated, okay? You just have to plan and put that plan into action. It's really not that crazy. And then last but not least, you have New Year's Eve, okay? So, maybe you're doing a New Year's Eve event, right? Again, tease that out. Use influencers, use in-store signage, partner with local people to get the word out, a local, it could be anything. Again, a local store, a local something that is sort of, is in a similar demographic or offers something to a similar demographic as yours, okay? So again, all you got to do is plan it out, figure out what you want to do. I don't think you need to do something for everything. It would be great if you do, right? Take advantage of these opportunities. And again, if it doesn't work, do not get discouraged. You just figured out ways that don't work, right? Try something next year. Try other events during the year so you can get better at understanding what moves the needle for these events, okay? And if you never figure it out, then there's maybe something else wrong with either your business or what you offer or your the experience people are having there, okay? So you should be able to figure out how to make these things, fill up and be revenue drivers. So hopefully that helps. Get out, start planning for Q4 and go make some money.
All right. Well, thanks, Chuck, for that. And yes, I absolutely adhere to that concept. If you try something that doesn't work, try something else. Don't get frustrated. Just keep moving forward. Hey, do what Chuck E. Cheese says and stay positive. There we go. All right. So that is coming up here, a wrap, but we've got Sound Off number 92. It's crazy. Number 92 with Kevin Williams on Tuesday, September 30th. So coming up in just a few days, but also really excited here. We have a Behind Our Doors with Do the Beach coming out on Thursday, October 2nd. And so we've obviously got the tour of the new Do the Beach franchise location in Northport, Florida. Then we got an interview with one of the creators of the concept, Mike Wincup. And so very excited to have him on the show. And that runs this Thursday, October 2nd. So that is a wrap for this week's LBX Show. I'm Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.